There's an invisible world all around us, on every surface, in every breath we take, and even inside our own bodies. They outnumber all the stars in the sky. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on this incredible and way too often overlooked universe of microbes.
All right, let me ask you something. When you hear that word microbe, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Be honest. For a lot of us, it's probably something not so pleasant. Yeah, you're probably picturing a nasty germ, right? Something that makes you sick. And look, you're not entirely wrong. Some of them are bad news. But that's like judging the entire animal kingdom by only looking at a mosquito. The reality is so much more diverse and, frankly, a lot more interesting.
This automatic link we have between microbes and germs is just a huge misunderstanding. We're about to completely flip that script. You're going to see how these tiny organisms are actually some of our most important allies. And our journey starts in a place that couldn't be more familiar, your very own kitchen. Seriously, you would be amazed at how many of your favorite foods are actually crafted by these little invisible chefs working around the clock.
Just think about it. That sharp, tangy flavor in curd or yogurt, the wonderfully airy texture of a fresh loaf of bread, the rich, complex taste of cheese. These things aren't just food. They're microbial masterpieces. From delicious fermented foods like idli and dosa to traditional drinks like toddy, it's all thanks to these tiny culinary artists.
And the magic trick they're all using is something called fermentation. It's pretty simple, really. Microbes basically have a big meal on sugars. And as they eat, they create these amazing byproducts for us, like the acids that give food a tangy taste, the alcohol in our drinks, and even the carbon dioxide gas that makes bread rise.
And hey, you know the holes in Swiss cheese? Well, those aren't a mistake. They're actually the signature of a very specific bacterium. A little guy called Propionibacterium sharmani releases bubbles of carbon dioxide while it works, and that's what creates that famous look. It's a delicious little reminder of this invisible world at work. So microbes are clearly busy in our kitchens, but their work ethic doesn't stop there. When we scale things up from a kitchen bowl to a giant factory, these tiny organisms become absolute industrial powerhouses, creating products that have literally shaped the world we live in today. To get microbes to work on that massive scale, we use these enormous vessels called fermenters. You can basically think of them as giant, perfectly controlled microbe hotels. We create the ideal conditions for them to grow and multiply, and in return, they produce huge quantities of everything from beverages to life-saving medicines. And the list of products they make is just staggering. It's not just the obvious stuff like wine, beer, and whiskey. Microbes are the invisible workforce in our pharmacies, making powerful antibiotics. They're in our laundry detergents, creating enzymes like lipases that get out tough stains. They even make essential chemicals like citric acid that go into countless products we use every single day. It's a massive industry, all built on these little guys.
And speaking of medicine, one of the single most important medical discoveries of the 20th century, well, it happened because of a complete and total accident. I'm talking about the incredible story of penicillin. So, picture this. A scientist, Alexander Fleming, comes back to his lab after a vacation and finds one of his lab dishes is contaminated with mold. Gross, right? But before he threw it out, he noticed something strange. Right around the mold, there was a clear zone where the dangerous bacteria he was studying just wouldn't grow. He realized the mold was actually fighting back. It was microbe versus microbe, and humanity was about to be the winner. Now, Fleming's chance discovery in 1928 was the spark, but it was two other scientists, Ernest Chain and Howard Florey, who fanned that spark into a full-blown fire. They figured out how to unlock penicillin's true potential and turn it into a world-changing drug just in time for World War II, where it saved an unimaginable number of lives. This was a true game changer, and it rightfully earned all three of them the Nobel Prize. And penicillin, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Since then, microbes have given us an entire arsenal of life-saving medicines. We've got things like streptokinase, a clot buster from bacteria that can stop a heart attack. There's cyclosporin A, a molecule from a fungus that makes organ transplants possible by preventing rejection. And, of course, there are statins from yeast, which help millions of people control their cholesterol. It's a pharmacy built by microbes. Okay, from our food to our factories to our medicine, the impact is huge. But now, let's zoom all the way out. Let's look at the biggest role they play,
keeping our entire planet healthy. They really are the silent, unsung heroes of our environment.
Every single day, our cities produce millions upon millions of gallons of wastewater. We can't just dump that into our rivers and oceans. So instead, it gets sent to massive facilities like this, where we unleash an army of hungry microbes to do the dirty job of cleaning it all up for us. It's basically a two-step process. First, what's called primary treatment just gets rid of the big solid stuff. But the real magic happens in the second stage. Here, we pump in air to activate specific microbes that absolutely love to eat organic waste. They literally consume the pollution, leaving much cleaner water behind. So how do we know if our microbial cleanup crew is doing a good job? Well, we use a measurement called biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD. Just think of it as a pollution score. Really dirty water has a high BOD. The whole goal is to let our microbes munch away until that BOD score plummets, which tells us the water is safe enough to be returned to the environment. And microbes are also starting a revolution in how we grow our food. For decades, we've relied on harsh chemical pesticides and fertilizers that can really damage the environment. But it turns out there's a much smarter, more sustainable way to do things, by partnering with microbes in the field. So instead of just blasting our fields with chemicals, we can use microbes as tiny, targeted weapons. For instance, a bacteria known as Bt specifically targets pests like caterpillars, but leaves helpful insects alone. Certain fungi can act like bodyguards for plant roots, protecting them from disease. There are even viruses that attack specific insect pests, but are completely harmless to plants, birds, or fish. It's a much more intelligent approach. So I think it's pretty clear by now that our old, simple view of microbes is just wrong. It's really time we completely rethink our relationship with these tiny but incredibly powerful neighbors. We've gone from the kitchen to the factory to the hospital and out to the farm. And in every single one of those places, the story is exactly the same. Microbes aren't the villains of the story, they are our most essential partners. The true unsung heroes working behind the scenes to make our food, our medicine, and even our planet better.
Their resume is already mind-blowing, but the most exciting part is that we've only just started to understand what they're capable of. So the real question isn't just about what they can do, it's about what we can accomplish together. From tackling plastic pollution to generating clean fuel, what's the next great challenge we'll solve by teaming up with our tiniest and most powerful allies?